a big question I'll ask them is, are you worth improving? But it doesn't matter what I think. Are you worth improving to you? A lot of people haven't been asked that question before. Am I important to me? The person that puts themselves of importance does things in their own best interest. And you haven't been doing that the first 50, 60, 70 years. Are you willing to make yourself important again, making different choices, following different habits? You won't be able to serve any of them or yourself if you don't prioritize yourself. I think without question, Rita, you have to start internally in this whole thing. You must start there. You are important to you, or at least get to those.
Welcome to the Self-Care Goddess podcast, where healing stories, practical self-care strategies, and science-backed tools to regulate stress, feel calm, grounded, and energized come together to help you reclaim your vitality. I'm your host, Rita Savoya, holistic nutritionist, trauma-informed breathwork coach, and founder of Breathwork Barista. This podcast is for women who are ready to restore their energy and radiance, reconnect with their bodies, reawaken their inner power, and redefine self-care as a way of being. Through science meets soul practices, restorative mind-body tools, and real stories of transformation, we'll explore how true well-being can help you live with more joy, vibrant health, and authentic connection to yourself and those you love. Take a deep breath in, let it go, and let's begin. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Self-Care Goddess podcast. Very excited to have our guest here today. But as usual, actually with today's theme, strength, nutrition, and longevity, thriving in midlife and beyond. Very, very excited to have this conversation with our guest. But before we start, as you know, on the podcast, we walk the talk here. So if you are comfortable lowering your gaze or even closing your eyes, I invite you to just tune in to your inner world by tuning out what's happening outside of you and maybe what you need to be doing next or what just happened. I invite you to close your eyes and just follow your breaths flowing in and out of your body, preferably inhales through the nose, lengthening those inhales, making them a little longer than usual. And then exhaling, let's sigh out through the mouth and just letting go of any stress, any tension, any discomfort that you might be feeling, any achiness in certain parts of your bodies. Allow the exhales to channel into those areas and soften, relax, and let go. Continue sharp inhales through the nose, expanding the belly, the chest, and then just letting it go with a sigh. Inhaling a little deeper than usual, and then letting it go. Maybe even making an audible sigh to really tell the body that you're okay, you're safe, you're supported. Inhaling through the nose and then exhaling through the mouth. I now invite you to channel these breaths into the area of the heart. Where attention goes, energy flows. So let's together energize these beautiful hearts that we carry that allow us to function. And now I invite you to visualize someone that you're grateful for. Acknowledge them as if they're right here in front of you. And I invite you to radiate all the love, the gratitude, and the appreciation from your heart to their heart. And now let's turn this love, gratitude, and appreciation for this person towards yourself, for being here, taking the time for self-care and self-love. On your next inhale, flutter your eyes open and come back to us. Thank you for participating in that quick coherence technique from the Heart Math Institute. So today we have Dr. Derek Alessi is a fitness and nutrition expert with nearly 30 years of experience helping individuals, especially those over 45, lose fat, build strength, and improve overall health. A published author and media guest with over 2,100 TV and 400 radio appearances, he focuses on sustainable science-backed strategies to optimize metabolism, enhance performance, and reduce reliance on medications. Through intelligent strength training and practical nutrition, Dr. Derek empowers people to take control of their health and longevity without falling for fads or extreme methods. Wow, what a bio. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your amazing expertise and energy with my community. How are you today, Doctor?
Rita, thank you, and thanks for having me on.
Yes, super excited to dive into some of these things. Science-backed strategies. I am a science geek, so I think we can geek out on some of the science here in terms of what you are going to explain to us very soon. Just before we get into it, how has your personal journey influenced the mission that you're on, Dr. Derek?
It's interesting because when people ask me, did I always know I wanted to do this for a living? My answer was no. I wanted to be a dentist.
Okay.
Dentist, yeah. No, still to this day, I love teeth. But when people ask me why I wanted to be a dentist, there was really two reasons. First reason is I had an uncle who was a dentist, and I was kind of following in his footsteps. The second reason, though, is because, well, in high school, I was 244 pounds with a 44-inch waist,
Wow.
which is way too large, especially for that age. I never thought about fitness. I never thought about it at all. I was not athletic, and honestly, it just didn't seem too interesting to me. Both sides of my family were from Italy. Father's side from Sicily, mother's side from northern Italy. So I was highly influenced by some very carbohydrate dense Italian cuisine my entire life, and it showed. And I was very heavy. So luckily, when I started undergrad, which was I'm going to give it away here in 1989. I started undergrad and I had to take some prerequisites in a brand new field, which was called exercise science. It's not new now, but in 1989, not all colleges and universities had exercise science departments. So, in taking some of these classes, it was interesting because it kind of spoke to me. I liked it and I did find the information interesting, but at the same time, there was a little bit different, I guess, calling or nagging or push, if you will, that said, you really should be doing these things. And I was interested in doing some of these things, and I kind of caught the bug. So I went a little bit deeper, started exercising, started lifting weights, started working out. I didn't know anything about nutrition at all in those days, other than if it came in a wrapper, I probably shouldn't eat it. And within about a year and a half, lost about 80 pounds or so and went from having a 44-inch waist to on the stage of a bodybuilding contest in a rapid and short period of time. So my world changed. Now, all of that being said, I did not fall in love with bodybuilding. I liked the training aspect of it, but the other parts could kind of do without. I didn't necessarily want to go out and pose. I didn't want to go on stage. I didn't want to wear posing trunks. I certainly didn't want to remove every bit of Italian hair off of my body to get on the stage and do full epilation. Put all of the baby oils and everything else, fake tan, all of that stuff. Honestly, don't want any part of it, but I did enjoy the training. And I liked the transformation. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go even a little bit deeper in this and take even more classes. I could always go back to dental school. So then I kind of started working as a personal trainer just to have some spending money while I was in college to buy books and gas for the car and so on and so forth. And it kept building and developing. And I started having a clientele. I started having regular clients that would come to see me. A small clientele turned into a medium, then a large size clientele. 30 years later, I've been working with, in our clinic here, I've been working with tens of thousands of people over the last 30 years. But that's where it all began as a dentist.
Wow, incredible. And yes, congrats on the transformation. That's huge. And I'm also Italian. And I do feel that, yes, it's definitely carb heavy. But I do find that when I go to Italy, I don't get as bloated and I'm actually able to digest the gluten. And that's probably because of all the toxic crap that we spray here in North America on our crops. But tell us a little more about nutrition and how important it is to help us maintain that energy, balance those hormones, and even longevity, right? How important is nutrition and also strength training?
No, I first have to comment and stop you and say I agree. When I go to Europe or Italy, the same type of thing. It's not what it is here in the United States. But as you know, it's a completely different diet than what most people think it is. We think if you go to Italy, everything is going to look like the Olive Garden. It does
Mm-hmm.
not at all. Obviously, pasta and all those types of things are side dishes. They're smaller as opposed to being the main dish here. And also, too, you probably had something called self-control, which I certainly did not have in my younger days. And if you put it in front of me, I was going to keep eating it until it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some of those challenges going into it. When it comes to nutrition and fitness, people always ask, don't they overlap? Is one interchangeable? What if I exercise and don't follow my diet or change my eating or vice versa? And the answer is there's a small overlap, but they do give completely different benefits. When we're talking about changing our body composition, when we're talking about fuel for our body, when we're talking about energy and digestion and all of those things, we're talking nutrition. And nutrition is vital. It is obviously it's our nourishment, but it's everything, and we have direct control over it. Typically, when somebody comes to see me the first time as a client, big question I'll ask them is, are you willing to change your diet? And I get all different types of responses, but ultimately you have to be willing to change it to improve it in most situations. And that's kind of what we look for in terms of having a very balanced diet. And one of my keys to a balanced diet is making sure that blood glucose levels and insulin don't change by much. The more stable, the better.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the rule that I follow as a starting point for most people on the nutritional journey. And if they do it right, they could start feeling the benefits immediately. With exercise, you may not feel the benefits or see the benefits immediately, but with nutrition, within a day or two, you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling better. You're probably sleeping a little bit better. You don't feel as bloated. You don't feel as lethargic. So it's pretty immediate in terms of the payoff. So if people can kind of feel that a little bit, chances are they can get hooked on it, which is a good thing.
I so agree. I so agree. What are your thoughts on blood glucose monitors? Like those, yeah, I was actually thinking of doing some for myself, but also for some clients of mine that are the stubborn weight is not coming off.
So my history with blood glucose measuring and monitoring has gone on for several decades. For the longest time, what I would do is use an old-fashioned finger stick glucometer, the kind of you might have seen laying around if your grandparents or an aunt or uncle or parents had diabetes. So I
Hmm.
would measure my glucose 5 times a day. First thing in the morning, last thing at night, and in between my 3 meals, constantly trying to figure out what's happening based upon what I'm eating. Now, mind you, I would do it 5 times a day, and I did it for well over 10 years, recording everything, and I'm non-diabetic. So I wasn't doing it because I had to do it. I was doing it because I was interested in doing it. And
Hmm.
like you, I teach it for a living. And lastly, I'm now very sensitive to my body composition and my health and my body fat. So I am watching my blood sugar all the time. So I had looked at it for a long time, and when finally non-diabetics were able to get CGM, continuous glucose monitors, it was a godsend. To be able to pull it up on your device, to be able to see
Hmm.
instantaneously what's happening to your glucose, and then to be able to go back at any point throughout the day, week, or a month and see what may have triggered it gives you a ton of information and a lot of control. Now, what do you do with that information is up to the individual, but I think it's in terms of what it shows you, you can see the highs, you can see the lows, and you can see for everything in between. So I'm a huge fan at the highest level of doing that type of training.
And I love that. Yes, because then it becomes really personalized because a white potato to you might not spike your blood sugar as much as mine, but also what you think is healthy may not be healthy for you. So I'm a big advocate of that too. So yeah, I'm going to definitely try it myself too. So you talked a little bit about the stubborn weight and or no, being sensitive, I guess. Because as we age, unfortunately, there are some things that are not going to work as effective as when we were younger. And it's totally like normal to embrace, but there are strategies, right? So, what are some misconceptions, like the biggest misconceptions about fat loss and metabolism for those of us over 40?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because so many times, especially a female will say to me, I don't know why I keep gaining body
Mm.
fat. I'm probably watching what I eat more so than at any
Mhm.
point in the past. And now I just look at a piece of cheesecake and I gain 2 pounds. What is going on? There is no doubt there's a couple things at play. First and foremost, keep this in mind. Whenever we're dealing with metabolism, will decrease with age if your muscle mass is decreasing with age,
Mm.
which is normal. It's common. It's called atrophy. So we're losing muscle tissue, we're losing metabolism. And if you're not addressing it with fitness, I know we're just talking nutrition right now, but if you don't address it with fitness, your
Mhm.
metabolism's going to slow. Now, this had nothing else to do other than the fact that you're not burning as many calories because you lost your muscle. It's not just sensitive to age. So the first thing I would recommend is start working on your metabolism by increasing your muscle tissue. Now,
Mm.
the second part of that question, though, and the real sensitive part of it is, do we lose carbohydrate or insulin sensitivity as we age? And the answer is yes, we do. So we're not able to tolerate the same amounts that we could when we were younger. So what really happens, and think of it like this, is blood sugar goes up because of what we eat or drink,
Right.
but our body isn't as quick to recognize it. So glucose goes up latent or secondarily, and it stays up longer than it would otherwise. Now, the
Mm.
problem with glucose going up and staying up longer is the fact that your body will keep trying to produce more and more insulin. As it
Mm.
produces more and more insulin, your insulin load will stay higher over a longer period of time, days, weeks, months, sometimes even longer, and insulin will shuttle that sugar initially to your liver. I'm giving you a lot of information because you said you're a geek, so I'm giving you geeky information.
Yeah, I'm visualizing it already.
You can
Yeah.
visualize it so it goes into your liver. And if you don't utilize all that sugar for your liver, which of course most people won't be able to as they get older, it's going to take it and put it in a bigger gas tank than your liver, and it's called stored body fat. So it is not as quick to regulate as it was when we were younger. You don't notice it at any given year, but you would over a 10-year period, 20-year period, certainly. So those two effects happen at the same time. And then a person will just say, geez, I don't know what happened. I turned 50 and everything went crazy. It's been happening all along. You just notice it now.
Right. It's more noticeable. So your recommendation is to watch our carbohydrate consumption?
From just a
Foods?
nutritional point of view, I would say this. First, you have to prioritize protein. Even the word protein. In fact, let me ask you this. Do you know the definition or the translation of the Greek word protein?
No.
The pro is first or for, the teen is importance.
Mm.
First importance.
Wow.
First
Mm.
importance is protein, because we needed to rebuild and repair all of the muscle tissue of the human body, including heart, lungs, organs, and skeletal muscle. So that is first importance. And if you're not consuming it, you're not going to live. You
Mm.
cannot survive without complete proteins. First importance. Now, the best part about eating protein is not just what we mentioned in terms of your skeletal muscle and your organs, but also it has very low glycemic effect. It
Mm.
doesn't change blood sugar or insulin by much at all.
Mm.
Very small, 5, maybe 10 points on the glycemic index. So when you start with protein, you're going to be taking in protein and dietary fat, because dietary fat is in the protein. Now, a lot of people have a very bad association to dietary fat depending upon their age,
Hmm.
because a lot of us grew up hearing that low fat, no fat diets were recommended because high fat diets were bad. We have learned since that time that's not the case. So the younger generation knows this already, but a lot of people, once again, that are 50 and older, we keep hearing that voice in our head, so we're scared of
Hmm.
fat. Don't be scared of dietary fats. Be scared of the types of dietary fats that you're taking in. But fat by itself will allow your hormones to be able to be built, and it fuels your human brain. So, extremely important, and neither one of those changes blood sugar level by much. So,
Right.
prioritize proteins and dietary fats, and you're more than halfway there. And then carbohydrates. Boy, we could talk about carbs for the next 30 hours and we probably wouldn't scratch the surface. Carbohydrates can vary a ton.
Yeah. But they're needed. We
Well,
still need them in our diet, or like what are your thoughts on keto, for example, that really minimizes carbohydrates?
Yeah, so interesting. So carbs are not required. You don't need them per se for human life. In fact, in terms of human evolution, for the first 2.7 million years of it, we didn't have any. You could either fish or hunt. Maybe you could eat a shrub here or there just to buy some time, but you couldn't live on it. You
Mm.
would eventually perish and die. So there is no dietary requirement in any nutritional book or textbook regarding carbohydrate. It doesn't mean you can't take them in again. You certainly could take them in again, and I don't advocate a no carb diet. But keto, as you just mentioned, is 80% fat, 20% protein, no percent carb. So it's very fat heavy. It's low in protein, but no carb, which is a little bit different than Atkins, which is about 50-50 protein and fat, which is different than carnivore, which is 70% protein, 30% fat, but all of them are pretty much no carb. In my opinion, way too extreme for the general population.
Mm-hmm.
It's too extreme and a little bit unnecessary too. And it's not sustainable unless you're very advanced at this. So I wouldn't jump into starting at any one of those.
Right. And what are your thoughts on this is amazing, by the way. Thank you for I feel like I'm rapid fire questions. All right, doctor, let's go. What's next? So thank you.
Keep going, keep shooting. Yeah, you bet.
All right, awesome. So in terms of protein, animal versus plant-based, what are your thoughts on that?
Animal.
Yeah, all the way?
All the way. Yeah.
Always.
All the way. Yeah. It's so difficult to do a plant-based protein diet and have complete proteins.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say complete protein, for those of you that don't know, we're talking about amino acid profile. There's 23 amino acids, but 9 of which are essential. Once again, I guess we're getting a little bit geeky with that kind of talk.
Keep going.
You need those 9 essential amino acids to rebuild and repair your muscle tissue, and plant proteins don't provide those. So 0% of plant proteins are complete proteins. So you have to start mixing many different forms of plant proteins to get a complete protein. But you can't do that without dramatically changing blood glucose and insulin levels, which we were just talking about, to prevent against regulation of insulin, body fat, and other different types of health problems. So that's what makes it so challenging. We're going against that 2.7 million years I just referred to earlier, which makes it extremely tough and extremely difficult to sustain. That's why people have such a hard time with a plant-based diet of sustaining it, and eventually they will come off of it. They will falter and fail, and eventually they won't follow a plant-based diet.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for clarifying that. How about protein powders? What if you supplement? Like definitely, food first, but what are your thoughts on supplementing protein powder?
Protein powders, as you know, I have a great deal of research into. In fact, I even have a company that makes protein powders. When it comes to protein powders, they can be awesome. They really can, because think of it as having like chicken or beef or fish in a very convenient and delicious form. So it can make it very worthwhile, very convenient for somebody, and you can get your protein levels, adequate protein levels in if you supplement with it. However, there's so many different types of manufactured proteins. So a typical person walks into a health food store and they're inundated with dozens of choices up and down the aisles of all these different proteins, and they're not all equal. So it's very tough when you're looking at the outward package of it saying this is the best, this is the best, this is the best. How do you really know? And it's confusing. So when it came to protein, what we decided to do is to go at the top source. So we've all heard the arguments between grass-fed protein versus non-grass-fed or farm-raised protein. And in case you don't know, people ask, well, why would I ever want grass-fed anything? Well, in general, if the animal or organism is having its natural diet, it will be a healthier animal or organism. And because of it, the protein is better. It absorbs better into our body when we consume it. It's higher in iron, it's higher in B vitamins, it's higher in good dietary omega fats. So all of those things are a huge plus. Grass-fed protein is the same way. So you could see the benefits of having grass-fed protein. That alone is a little bit confusing, but oh my goodness, that just starts the story. The second part that a lot of people don't even realize is the fact that grass-fed means something different in every country.
Okay.
Yeah, so we use grass-fed New Zealand protein. People say, well, why New Zealand? It's so far away. You have to bring it in. It's expensive. Trump wants to have these huge tariffs. Everything is so costly. Yeah. Well, the thing about New Zealand, it's got the highest standard in the world if it's called grass-fed. It must be grass-fed 100% of the time.
Mm.
100% of the time. No other country matches that. That's the highest standard. Some of the other numbers in Canada, you can call something grass-fed if it's grass-fed 20% of
Yeah.
the time. In the United States, you can call it grass-fed if it's grass-fed 4% or more of the time. So the quality is so much different depending upon the country that you're getting it from. So we went after New Zealand grass-fed because, once again, of the profile of being the best of the best, it absorbs into the body. You're getting what you're paying for, really, is what it comes down to. You're trying to get the absorption level of the protein. But once you do, it can be a wonderful source of awesome calories that your body will crave, utilize, and it'll be for your better.
And so, what are your thoughts on amino acid supplements, like actual capsules versus the protein powder?
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of that as well. Now,
Mm.
typically, a person that would be taking that would be a person that already is of that fitness health mindset, which is great. So, if you have somebody that's at least intermediate to advanced, it maybe even more advanced in terms of their level of exercise experience, you could start utilizing some things like amino acids after your workouts to help rebuild and repair your muscle tissue. However, if you're dealing with the overwhelming part of the population that is maybe a beginner or maybe has not even ever started a fitness program, amino acids are a little bit unnecessary. And also, too, it's hard to get a buy-in for that when we could just be utilizing food
Mm.
initially, because they won't have the demand of needing those additional amino acids until they get much more advanced. So I wouldn't start there for somebody if they're just beginning a program, but if you are more advanced, yeah, no, it could be an awesome thing.
To supplement, to make sure, for example, for myself. So I'm mostly vegetarian. You're gonna be like, oh no, Rita, but I do eat fish, but I'm mostly vegetarian, and I'm feeling great. Like when I stopped eating meat, honestly, doctor, I just felt better. I wasn't, I don't know, I just didn't have this anger, and maybe it's because I was meditating as well. But I just like no brain fog, no energy issues. So I'm like, okay, it works for me, right? And but I do eat fish sporadically, not often, but I have to do the combining thing. So in order to make sure that I'm getting complete protein, but I also supplement with protein powders. And now I started thinking, okay, wait a minute, sometimes I can't always have my protein powder either, so I might as well also do the supplements.
It can be a good strategy, and there's no one protein source that you should always be taking in. So if a
Ah.
person does come to me and say, well, look, I'm vegetarian, but I do eat fish, I do have eggs. Is that okay? Yes. Must I have chicken? No. Must I have beef? No. Must I have
Mm.
pork? No. It doesn't necessarily matter. Just in general, for many people, the more choices you give them, the better it's going to be and the easier it's going to be for them to follow along. So just yesterday, I had a woman that came in, and it was the same type of thing. She had tried different plant-based diets before. She tried veganism years ago. It didn't work well for her. She was starting to take in some proteins, but also too, if you go too long without taking in animal-based or hemp-based protein, you're going to have a harder time having the enzymes necessary to start breaking it down. So when you do
Mm.
introduce it, it can cause a lot of pain, especially initially, to
Mm.
breaking the food back down again. You have to almost relearn as if we were children again, if you could recall what that process looks like, or if you have children, what that process looks like in terms of the protein breakdown. So don't be discouraged if that is happening, but the less animal-based protein you take in, the more intolerance you're going to have of
Ah,
taking those enzymes.
interesting. What happens to the enzymes? Is just give up, like stop working? They go on strike?
They're not well, first and foremost, they're not present inside your bloodstream, so the level of them is considerably lower. So everything's coming from brand new. So you almost have to prime the pump all over again. But the enzymes have to be expressed. They have to be turned back on again to make sure that they're starting to produce the adequate amounts. And the tolerance, depending upon how long somebody's gone, can vary. It's kind of like thyroid, same type of thing. If it goes too long when it's not working properly, it's going to take longer and longer to start working properly.
Ah,
Same with
makes
insulin
sense.
as well with pancreatic activity. So if you go too long and if you're not a kid anymore, all of those things can kind of make it very difficult to reintroduce it again. And then a person will typically say, I tried having animal protein and I felt terrible. I felt awful. I was bloated. I was
Mm.
in pain. Yes, that's what happened because you didn't have the enzymes to break it down. Now, the next part is, can you go out and sometimes just purchase enzyme supplements to help you? And the answer is, of course, you can.
Mm-hmm.
There's different forms of those that you can get, and that can be something to look at if you're in that.
Mm-hmm. Or fermented protein powder, right? So that
Right.
can help to digest. So let's debunk the eggs, because I eat eggs too, by the way. I forgot, like 2 a day almost, if not more. And so, yes, are eggs good for us or not?
They're good for you.
Full
They're
stop.
awesome for you. I wanted to be very clear with that. Yeah, eggs are awesome. Um, I typically have 8 eggs a day for well over 20 years.
As your main source of protein, or like where? How?
Probably, probably my main source of protein along with protein powder. But just to give you way too much information and talk about nobody else but myself, what I would say is in the course of a day, my dinner is always a 4 or 5 egg omelet. And I only eat 2 other times during the day. I eat a traditional breakfast, a traditional lunch. I don't have anything in between. But in my breakfast and lunch, they're identical meals. What I'll do is get ultra high fat Greek yogurt. I'm able to get a 10% milk fat Greek yogurt, so extreme high fat. And in general, the higher the fat, the lower the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm getting the super high fat Greek yogurt. And then what I'm doing is I'm putting my New Zealand grass-fed whey protein into it, which is chocolate flavored. So now I have this like chocolate pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you would think that would be enough, but no, Rita, it is not enough for me. I have to go even deeper. So I crack a cage-free raw egg right into it, and I turn it into custard,
Yeah, yeah.
and I eat it with a spoon. And I've
Uh-huh.
been doing it for well over a decade, and I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love it. To me, it tastes like dessert, like Dairy Queen, Haagen-Dazs, any of the Ben and Jerry's. It's that good.
No sugar. You don't put any maple syrup or any like natural sweeteners?
Never, never
Fruit?
under any circumstances. May put in some macadamia nut oil into it just to get even more fat, but nothing else.
Hmm.
And it is wicked delicious. At least in my opinion, it is wicked delicious.
What are your thoughts on that's awesome. Thank you.
Well, it kind of depends. And also, I should mention, I said when the higher the fat of the Greek yogurt, the lower the sugar. The sugar there is the lactose.
Hmm.
And so I'm not saying that Greek yogurt is lactose free, but when you go higher fat, it's low lactose. When you go low fat, once again, dating us to years ago,
Hmm.
anybody older wants to go low fat, they want to buy low fat or 1% fat Greek yogurt. It's going to be much higher in sugar, in that lactose sugar, which can cause more problems, digestive issues. So it does kind of depend, but don't buy low fat or no fat anything. It is garbage and it's loaded
Hmm.
with lactose sugar. So for dairy, I'm not a fan of lactose. The human body doesn't tolerate it well. Nobody handles lactose well. Some people really don't handle it well and they can't have any, but most of us have problems with lactose. So try to decrease it as much as possible. I'm not seeing cream or butter as being in that category though, because it doesn't contain any lactose.
Right.
So it kind of all depends where the dairy's coming from. Try to eliminate as much lactose though as possible.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it. Wow, this is super interesting. I love it. So in order to speed our or like at least keep our metabolism at a good rate that is functioning well, is to increase the protein in our diet. And this goes for men and women in after 40.
Both. Yeah, absolutely both. In fact, I think women have to be more sensitive to it than men because, in general, I think for a woman, it could be kind of put to the side a little bit easier. So, for my female clients, and I work about 65% female, I'm extremely cautious to them that they have to be extremely aware of
Mm-hmm.
their protein consumption. And then on top of it, as she gets older, even more aware because
Mm-hmm.
protein doesn't absorb as well as we age. So if
Mm.
I'm working with a female who might be in her 60s, 70s, 80s, or older, the oldest one I've had was 97, you have to be extremely diligent with your protein consumption because it's not absorbing anywhere near as well.
And what happens with excess protein in the body if you're not absorbing it?
Well, if you're not taking it in, you won't get it into your muscle tissue. If
Uh-huh.
you start taking in more and more and more, your body will start utilizing it. But it's the number one thing that we see as deterioration inside nursing homes is we cut the protein in most nursing homes because that's the most costly or most expensive part of the food or the meal. And
Mm.
then when they do give you protein, it's typically very low quality and very low quantity.
Mm.
And then a typical person will say, well, what if I just try to supplement it with something like Boost or Ensure. And now we're using a very
Sugar.
low grade protein again that doesn't absorb well, extreme low quality protein. It doesn't absorb well, so you're never getting the benefits from it. So in most of those situations, I am not worried about somebody having too much protein in their body. In fact, I don't even know if they'd be capable of taking in high levels over time of too much protein at advanced ages.
So your thoughts on fasting, Dr. Derek?
Well, a couple things. I don't necessarily teach fasting per se, but it can have some big benefits. I know intermittent fasting is probably the most popular of all of them. And I do have clients every single year that will do anything from a 3 day, 5 day, 7 day. I've even had a 10 day faster before. And there are different benefits. The person that did the 10 day, though, it was a female.
Was it dry fast or they still had some liquid, some water?
Well, they still had water.
Okay.
Had water. More common right now is a coffee fast. You're still having coffee with MCT oil. The MCT oil is giving you the ketones for energy. She went 10 days without it, and it really wasn't for dietary reasons. She went 10 days because she found it was the best way to handle stress. So if we went back to last November in the United States, we had a very tumultuous election. And she said, whenever in the past I feel a lot of stress, I start to stress eat. I start eating garbage, bad things. And I'm eating ice cream and I'm eating sweets and I'm doing all these things. This year, she said, you know what? I felt the stress and the pressure, and I just said, I'm not going to eat. I want to see how long I could do it. And she made it 10 days. And she said, I feel terrific, and my anxiety was very, very low. Now, once again, I don't teach that per se, but I do respect some of the benefits that come from it. And then also, I think in the big one is most people talk about how the pancreatic activity that we talked about earlier starts developing better sensitivity when you're not constantly inundating it with all of the sugar and the carbohydrates. So a lot of people say after the fast, they find themselves dealing with carbs better than they have maybe in years. So I think that's also a very big benefit of different types of fasting.
Huge benefit for sure. How about strength training? Let's go to that. How important, like you just said, that we need that for sure to help the metabolism. They go hand in hand for women as well. I mean, this is one thing I preach to my women clients: start early because we're going to need it when we're later on in life. Tell us a little bit of techniques. Is it better to do it first thing in the morning, fasted, not fasted, protein before or not? Tell us a little bit more, a few more strategies when it comes to strength training.
Strength training comes right after oxygen and water. So place that there in your life and you'll be happy.
Wow.
That's how important I think it is. Obviously, I'm saying that to make a point, but when it comes to muscle tissue, we lose it as we age. So women hit a genetic peak somewhere between the ages of about 18 to 24. And a little bit later, but it's pretty early in our lives that we hit our genetic peak. Then we start going through this phase of atrophy, which happens from that point to the end of our lives. Now, you don't necessarily notice it at 25, but you might notice it at 35, 45, and so on and so forth. So we talked about the metabolic benefits of the strength training, because if you could preserve your muscle tissue, in fact, maybe even start developing muscle tissue, you'll burn more calories. And that is true. But now if we switch gears and we talk about the other benefits of strength training, bone density, connective tissue, which are tendons and ligaments, and the integrity to make sure that the joints don't get injured, shoulder problems, hip problems, knee problems, back problems. If we talk about balance, coordination, the ability to have strength to do things, get off the floor, in and out of the car, up and down stairs. I can't tell you how many people will say to me, I don't, finally I worked my whole life. I'm at an age that I could do what I want, but I'm scared to death to do things that I think are going to have too many steps, things that are too far from where I park my car. If you have to start organizing all of your activities or wants based upon where the parking is, it's too limiting in terms of what
Yeah, for
you're able
sure.
to do. And I never want somebody to limit their lifestyle, limit their quality of life, limit this go around because they didn't have the strength to be able to pull it off. So that's why I think it's paramount. It's crucial that you focus on your muscle tissue, especially as you're aging. And strength training is the best way to accomplish it, bar none. So that's how I would see the whole thing.
Amazing. So do you find that it's more beneficial to do it in first thing in the morning, or like, well, or in the evening or afternoon? Does it matter? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I didn't answer that part of your question. I left you high and dry on that. Honestly, I forgot about it. So I'm glad you reminded me right. If a person's goal is to drop fat, if they want to burn fat, the studies are pretty clear. You're going to burn up to twice as much fat if you train fasted, empty belly, first thing in the morning. Okay. So that's most people that come to see me. They want to lose body fat, they want to burn fat. So the best way to do it is on an empty belly fasted first thing in the morning. Now, if you said, well, what if I don't care about that? I'm happy with my body composition, but I just want to work on my muscle and my joints and everything else you just mentioned. Well, if you're a busy person and you have a lot going on, I would also recommend first thing in the morning. All
Okay.
right, so it'll work best. Now, if you happen to be younger, if you're in your, I'm going to call it teens, 20s, maybe even early 30s, and you don't have anything going on after work, you don't rush home to a family and kids and driving all over the place for all these different activities, or you're not caring for a parent or anybody else, a lot of people will train after work. There's different reasons that people will do it. For performance training, you don't want to train on an empty belly. So if I'm working with somebody that's younger and
Mm.
trying to increase performance for a sport, you don't want empty belly training. You want them to eat and then maybe train an hour to 2 hours later.
Mm.
So a little of that does depend, but for most busy adults looking to burn fat first thing in the morning, fasted.
And women, because I was reading this article about women having the cortisol spike first thing in the morning. Of course, we all do, by the way, not just women. And then putting that extra stressor, good stress, which is a strength training, just sort of adds to that cortisol and obviously the actual reaction that the woman gets. Any feedback that you can give us?
I'm going to throw this kind of into your court because what I think a wonderful thing to do and what I do is I wake up extremely early. And the first thing that I do is I do some meditation.
Mhm.
Cortisol levels, in my opinion, should be pretty darn low. Now, you might say, well, how can you possibly lift weights after meditation? Honestly, I have no trouble at all. I
Mhm.
really don't. I don't feel as though it's a hindrance in any way, shape, or form. In fact, if anything else, I'm probably more focused at that point. I'm not anxious. I'm able to focus on my training. It doesn't hurt my energy or my strength curves in one bit. I like doing that type of routine. And if you are worried about cortisol levels, that's where I'd start.
Yeah, and do something about the actual stress and cortisol before getting into the workout room. So, workouts, hit training or regular sort of training, what are your thoughts there?
So it kind of depends upon, I was mentioning before, the level or experience level that a person is. So when we talk about more advanced things, HIIT, which is high intensity interval training, if we talk about, even supersets,
Hmm.
powerlifting,
Mm,
Olympic lifting, density training, I'm dealing with a more experienced person. It would kind of be like if somebody said, hey, I want to jump into all those forms of training, and I look at their grade point average and they're only in first grade. I can't teach you calculus, right? You first
right.
have to learn addition and subtraction first. So I'm a fan of HIT training. I wouldn't start there. And also, I don't love HIT training for anybody that's older or has any joint problems or joint issues. High intensity training can be very difficult on the knees, on the back, on the hips, on the feet. So I want to be extremely careful of joint integrity, especially as we're aging, because joints, once they're injured, we got issues. So
Hmm.
it's always hard for me to try to fix a joint or fix a body part. And I try not to ever put myself in that position. But if I'm dealing with somebody younger or somebody extremely advanced, I think we could jump into it.
The hit training, yes, I agree. There's a breathing technique that you can actually do squats, and I won't give it away, but I'm kidding. What you do is you hold your breath on the way down, and honestly, doctor, it gives you the exact same, I guess, it's the effects of hit training just by holding your breath. So you can try that if you have joint issues.
It does help stabilize the body. When you do that Valsalva technique, you're increasing that intra-abdominal pressure, which helps stabilize the body. It can help, which is funny because everybody always said, oh, no, 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 you should always be breathing throughout the entire exercise. No, no, actually, it's not the case. If you watch the most advanced people, they are holding their breath while they're doing it.
Right, right, which adds that challenge. So, yes, really cool. Wow, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I do want to respect everyone's time. So, we're going to go into sort of learning more about you. What's the most common advice that you tend to give your clients? Is there one?
I think it's mostly based upon something that's not diet and not exercise. It's
Oh,
mindset. So if the mindset isn't correct, the strategies themselves don't work, or at least they don't work long. So when somebody comes to see me the first time, and after I get their body composition, do a joint evaluation, look at their blood work or lab work, health history, and then start putting together some goals, a big question I'll ask them is, are you worth improving?
Mm.
They'll say, well, what do you mean? I said, not to me. I think you're worth improving, but it doesn't matter what I think. Are you worth improving to you?
Mm.
Are you worth improving to you? Are you important to yourself? Is really what it comes down to. Now, a lot of people haven't been asked that question before. Am I important to me? Well, of course, I'm me. Of course, I'm important to me. No, no, no. Because a person that puts themselves of importance does things in their own best interest. And you haven't been doing that the first 50, 60, 70 years, however old the person is that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
Are you willing to
Mm.
make yourself important again, making different choices, following different habits, prioritizing yourself? I can't prioritize myself. I got all these kids, I got all these responsibilities, all
Mhm.
these jobs. Yeah, and you won't be able to serve any of them or yourself if you don't prioritize yourself. So I think without question, Rita, you have to start internally in this whole thing. You must start there. You must know that you are important to you, or at least get to those. It's a hard question to answer. So when I
Mhm.
say that to people, I get every look from I'm confused to boy, I'm crying right now and very emotional because I never thought of it like that before.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing, but that hard work does have to be done. It has nothing to do with just doing another plank or another sit up, but it's good stuff that has to be done. Then we can get into the strategy, but we're not going to give up or forget the mindset because the mindset has to be worked on as well. It's a muscle.
Yeah.
It's just like working your biceps or your quadriceps. You got to
Yeah.
work the mindset as a muscle too. And
Mhm.
so often we're not taught it, we're
Yeah.
not practicing it, and we're not good at it. So
Mhm.
that is probably the most common thing that I work with my clients on improving.
Okay, I love that very holistic approach. And the mindset helps it become a sustainable lifestyle, right? It's not just something that you're doing to stay fit, it's something that you're doing as a lifestyle, right? It's not just a diet, it's a lifestyle. Love it. So, is there a piece of advice that you've been given and it still holds true today?
Oh, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands.
Pick one.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm bright enough to remember any of these, but sometimes I have a very short memory. Yeah, so when I was in my mid 20s, and I just started my business, as I was telling you a story earlier, I was working with an ultra successful client, very, very wealthy, owns sports franchises, that
Mm.
type of wealthy. And he said to me one day, he said, give me a key to your front door. Now, I used to work with him early in the morning. And I said, why do you want a key to my front door? And he said, because what's going to happen at some point is you're not going to be here. You're going to oversleep. You're going to be under the weather. Something is going to happen, and you're not going to be here. And I don't want what happens to you to affect me. And I said, okay, why is that? He said, because my time is precious. I value this time for me. I needed to recharge myself. I need to protect this time because it's the most crucial time before I have 20,000 fires a day to try to put out, manage, handle, you name it. It never goes away. So this is the time I need for myself. So
Wow.
it taught me very early on, you must carve out this time for yourself. It's
Mm.
crucial that you do put yourself first. I know that kind of piggybacks what we were just talking about. That's why I wanted to introduce it. And I never forgot it. I didn't know that message at the time. So when I was in my mid 20s, I just said to myself, you know what? I'll be darned if this guy ever beats me there in the morning. And I made it a preference for myself to never, ever get beat by him there. However, now that I'm older, I'm looking back at it and say, wow, that was awesome advice that I did not appreciate at the time.
Right. Oh, wow. Very nice. Thank you. And it's all about self-care on this show, right? It's not selfish, it's self-love. So thank you for that. What is the most influential book that you've ever read?
Probably my
Good for you.
had to say that. No, uh, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I love reading. I love consuming. At
Mm.
any given time, I might say that this is the most influential book. And then, of course, over
Yeah.
time, it's kind of like a record. It keeps, every record will keep getting broken the longer you work at it. Uh, Countless. There are so
Yeah.
many of them. Um, I guess recently reading different types of things. I'm a big fan of longevity, big fan of David Sinclair, Dr. Peter Attia. But on a completely different note, I've been reading a ton about dream analysis. I've been reading a
Mm.
ton about interpreting dreams and so on and so forth, because it's part of your psyche and your subconscious. So it kind of all depends when you ask me that question.
Okay. No, fair enough. Fair enough. That's cool. So, what are your top three? You talked a little bit about this, but your top three non negotiable self care habits that you do on an everyday basis?
Lift.
Every day. You don't get break. You don't do breaks,
No,
or you do body parts then?
5 or 6 days per week. I might give myself one day off. That
Uh-huh.
would be non-negotiable. I'm not going to mention like normal. I'm not going to say, well, I brush my teeth or something like that. Hopefully, you brush your teeth, right? I would say that. I would say meditation as well.
Hmm.
That I do, as I mentioned, in the morning, but I probably do it twice a day because I like to follow it back up again before I go to bed. That's the second thing. And the third thing, of course, is the consumption of eggs.
Love it. Love it. Sorry, going back to strength training, you train different parts. Do you believe in that? Training like the pull muscles and then the push muscles, or full body like 3 times? What's the best? Or it really depends on the person's schedule.
Depends upon the level of the person, the experience level. With the amount of time that I've been training, yeah, I'll just keep changing different body parts on different days. So people will say to me, well, I heard you need to train, take a day off, train, take a day off. Well, when you're doing a total body, yes, you do. If you're doing the same workout, yes, you do. But if you change the body part, no, you don't. It's kind of like saying this. If I could go to math class more than one day in a row, I just can't do the same math lesson one day in a row.
Yeah,
The same
exactly.
type of thing with the body part.
Yeah.
Changing it up and the frequency, you could increase it a lot.
Yeah. Good answer. Thank you. So, what is your legacy, Dr. Derek? What would you like to be known for?
Well, good question. I would say I want to be thought of or remembered as a teacher, maybe more than anything else. Being an exercise scientist, being a nutritionist is all well and good, but I want to be thought of as a teacher. I want people to be able to hear my voice when I'm not around. I want them to hear the lessons when I'm not around. I want to be influential in their decisions for their health, their fitness, their longevity. And I want it to be impactful so that they can say, even years later, wow, I could still hear that voice in my brain. I could still hear it in my heart. And it's still making a difference and improving the quality of my life.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Where is the best place that people can connect and want to listen to you teach more?
StrengthGenesis.com.
All right.
StrengthGenesis.com. All of the social handles are all there. All the information is all there. All the products that we've been talking about, they're all there. I also have a bunch of recipe and cookbooks if you like recipes and cookbooks. And I have ebook versions of them that are completely free on there as well at StrengthGenesis.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Very, very gracious. And we will have a coupon code for the Self Care Goddess listeners and viewers. So watch out for that in the show notes. Thank you. Thank you so much for your amazing energy, your amazing wisdom, and for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Have yourself a beautiful day.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you for tuning in to the Self Care Goddess podcast. If today's episode inspired you, share it with another woman who's ready to reclaim her vitality and lead from within. To continue your journey, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with me on ritasavoya.com. Until next time, remember, self-care isn't selfish, it's your superpower. Take a deep breath in, exhale, and keep rising. Ciao for now.